Welcome to Don't Fuck This Up, the podcast answering the ultimate question, how the fuck did you land that cool job? I'm your host, Lauren Alvarez. Today I am absolutely pumped to welcome Dr. Jenna Lagana to the show. Jenna is a sports and rehab chiropractor and the founder and owner of Lagana Wellness Company. Adding to that roster, Jenna is a lifelong athlete, a team doctor for Team USA Fencing, and an incredibly savvy business person. Jenna, welcome to Don't Fuck This Up.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
Chiropractic joke number one.
Welcome to the show. Today we have a great guest. We have Dr. Jenna Lagana, who's joining us as a doctor of chiropractic medicine and a physical rehabilitation specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Did I nail that?
Yeah.
Killed it?
Pretty close.
Yeah. Jenna's based here in LA. And Jenna, welcome to Don't Fuck This Up.
Thank you.
So I mean, before we get into anything about like where you grew up, how things have been for you, I mean, people come to you and unload all of their aches and pains, literally. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Of course.
Happy that we have good weather.
We'll take it.
Yeah. It rained a few times. It was over 100 degrees a few times.
We'll take it. I mean, growing up, like playing sports, and it's been a really big part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me? Like, what drew you to sport? Like, what drew you to? What sports did you play? Even I know you were a soccer player. Did I miss anything?
Soccer, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai.
Okay, casual.
So, yeah. Sprinkle that in there.
Yeah. Did the jiu-jitsu help with being a better defender?
It actually did.
I'm
so
sure.
I was really, really small.
Yeah.
In soccer, and hitting 8th grade, 7th grade,
Yeah.
8th grade, everyone else was getting bigger. I was called out about my chicken legs. I was really fast,
Okay.
but I didn't hit 100 pounds until sophomore, junior year of high school.
Wow.
So I was very petite.
Okay.
And at a certain point, although I was fast, my athleticism just didn't match other people. So I was burnt out mentally, physically, pulled myself out of soccer.
In high school?
Middle school.
Middle school.
So 7th,
Okay.
8th. And my dad was like, okay, well, what do you want to do then? I played club since I was 6, by the way.
Okay.
So this was already like a career.
Yeah, you were already deeper into it than most people are into anything they're doing these days in their 30s. Okay,
yes,
yeah.
I was committed, but pulled myself and I was like, I want to do jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. And he was like, where did you even learn those words?
So nobody in your family was doing martial arts. That wasn't a thing.
No.
What inspired that?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay. And so, I mean, I get it that wanting to also have control over your body,
Mm-hmm.
your movement, and maybe not feeling like the smallest person on the field probably felt pretty empowering.
Yeah. Owning my body. And I ended up doing that for a couple of years. And at a certain point, one of my club coaches, I think I was 13, 14, so right around freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And club coach reached out. He said, hey, we need an extra player. Are you available? And I was like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I think I gave myself enough space.
Okay.
Took a break.
Yeah.
Came back to it, and I was obsessed again. So
it was in you no matter what.
Yeah. And then I was bigger. I kind of grew into my body, learned how to use my body, and then thrived.
I think that's really empowering too for thinking about being for me, I remember being a teenager and just feeling like my arms were suddenly too long for the rest of my body, or my feet didn't do what they were supposed
awkward.
to. Very awkward. Yeah, I think I had an awkward stage that extended a few years. But also just kind of finding a way to feel in control of your body. And also, I mean, self-defense is a great thing to have as a key skill.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And a lot of people don't find that till later in life. So it's cool that you were just rolling around in the gym.
Doing it.
Yeah.
With my dad.
That's pretty cool. So did your dad get into martial arts too?
He started training, at the same place as
What?
me.
That's awesome.
So this is the awkward part too. I was a little bit too big for the kids class.
Okay.
But not big enough for the adult class.
Okay.
And there was a handful of us, younger teenagers. One of the girls was the owner's daughter.
Okay.
And I mean, I think she was maybe 3 or 4 years younger than me, double my size.
Yeah.
Just destroyed me.
I mean, is that good for your ego though, maybe to check you and have you be like, okay, I'm going to be second best at best?
I mean, She was respectful.
Okay.
It was a very, like, nurturing place.
A respectful ass whooping.
Yeah. But she went on to, I think she became a national or world champion for no-gi jiu-jitsu, which is basically wrestling.
Wow.
So. And
you're like, I fought her.
Yeah, I was like,
casual.
That's my buddy.
Yeah. Oh, we were really tight.
Yeah. Weird. That was my sparring partner.
Yeah. So did it ever occur to you that you wanted to play beyond high school when it comes to soccer or team sports?
I loved sports. I loved playing, but I knew at the end of the day, academics is really where I thrived. And I knew there wasn't a lot of opportunities for women to play beyond high school. I mean, college, there were good opportunities, but the amount of time you have to dedicate in college to traveling, in my brain, it was only worth it if I was going to a winning school.
Okay.
And then it, like, dedicating time to then have a championship result versus like dedicating the same amount of time and losing every game.
Yes, totally. I mean, and there are those schools, I won't name them.
Yeah.
For fear of losing listeners. Yeah.
But I mean, again, academics were my thing. I graduated with a 4.4 in high school.
How do you exceed a 4.0?
AP classes.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
So you went into college with credits?
No.
Okay.
They only accepted one of my AP tests.
So you just overachieved for the sake of overachieving.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. So you're fast, strong, and smart. Great.
Mm-hmm.
What did you initially study in college?
So junior year and senior year of high school, I was like, actually, I want to play in college. I had changed my mind.
Okay.
And by that point, all of the scholarship money was gone.
Okay.
Because at the time, the rules were you could sign, or you could verbally commit as early as a freshman.
Wow.
And then you're signing as a junior. So at that point, you're 16, committing to a school.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I was watching my friends. I was like, why are you guys, like, why'd you pick that school? And I was, I love the coach. Okay, but what are you going to do after you play? And they're like, I don't know. So I was kind of already balancing that battle of, okay, am I going to commit somewhere to play, or am I going to go with my long-term goal, which was going for my doctorate?
Yeah.
So
you knew you wanted to be a doctor going in?
Since I was 10.
Okay, so, and did you know what kind of doctor? You were like, I'm going to be a chiropractor.
Yeah, when I was 10.
What? I don't even think I knew what a chiropractor was when I was 10.
I met one when I was 10.
And you were like, you're my hero. Will you sign my autograph book? Also going to be just like you.
Yeah, so I actually, like I said, I played club.
Yeah.
But I got hurt snowboarding.
Okay.
And my parents just immediately were like, club soccer is very expensive. And so to have a kid out for a few weeks, a month, like you're missing tournaments, you're missing showcases, training, all of that. So they were like, okay, you're going to the chiropractor. We're going to get this right. You're going to play. So, okay. Loved it. I was like learning more about this guy, and he worked 3 days a week, drove an Audi, and I was like, oh, that's what I want.
Yeah. You're like, give me the Audi, give me the 3-day work week. I'll get a doctorate, whatever that entails.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you went into school knowing that you wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. Did it all go straightforward? Was it linear?
It was very linear.
Wow. Yeah. That really doesn't happen a lot. So what was kind of the pivotal moment for you in school?
So the model of chiropractic that I was introduced to as a 10-year-old is very different than how I practice now. I just enjoyed the experience with the chiro. So, I mean, he knew my parents, he knew my name, he knew my siblings, he was asked about tournaments. Like, it was a very personable relationship versus, I think, the normal medical experiences I had where I didn't even know my primary care.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even look me in the eye. Like, it was one of those things of, well, you look healthy. What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
Like that type of conversation.
Yeah, totally.
But in high school, I had an absolutely amazing, we had an athletic trainer.
Yeah.
So that's like your sideline medical provider. And her name was Ricky Watson.
Mm-hmm.
She taught, we had like elective classes, extra things you could take.
Yeah.
So one of it was a sports medicine. I think it was a 2-term thing you could do.
I did sports medicine in high school, actually.
Okay, yeah. So, you cover like ankle tapes and very basic anatomy.
I did it to meet football players. I couldn't really tell you much about taping, but it worked well.
We had those too.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, again, like you said, it's all athletes in the class, really.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple non-athletes, but it was just a fun class. She was amazing. Really got me excited about sports medicine.
That's so cool. Yeah.
But one of the things she told me, like, hey, there's not a lot of money in this career.
Mm.
You have to be with a school or a team. And if you're with a team, you're traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's a tough lifestyle.
Okay.
So I just decided, I said, okay, well, I feel like I could take sports medicine and I could take chiropractic because it has freedom in terms of you can work for yourself or you can work for someone else and merge it into like an athletic trainer, but with a doctorate. I was very lucky. My parents really never told me no about anything.
Wow.
We definitely weren't rich by any means. We didn't struggle to have food, but they went through a bankruptcy when I was in high school. So I saw, how tough finances could be.
Yeah.
And although some people may have seen that and like, okay, well, I'm just going to live in this like smaller bubble lifestyle and really, which I did like saving money, but they told me you can do whatever you want to do. Neither of my parents had a college degree. They worked hard. My dad's side is all blue collar workers.
Yeah.
And I think I took that work ethic and our generation coming out of high school. I mean, it was really an expectation that you were going to go to college.
Yeah.
I loved academics. I didn't love like the structure of school so much.
Yeah.
But I really thrived in learning and applying information. Someone during orientation, or I think one of the professors or like the dean or something was like, it's like drinking water from a fire hose. And I was like, well, that's a horrifying analogy.
It sounds like you want a face.
Yeah. I was like, okay, so we're all, okay. And it was like that at certain points.
Because your brain feels just like overload on absorbing information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like high school structure, but I mean, doctorate level information.
Yeah.
So you're just like, what the fuck do I do with all this information?
Yeah.
Like it was nonstop.
I call it like mushy brain syndrome. Is like anytime you're ramping up on a new thing and like it creeps into your dreams and you're like, I can't stop thinking about this.
I couldn't even hang out with friends outside of that program.
Yeah.
Because I literally couldn't talk about anything other than like stupid science jokes or like experiences in school, which no one understood. Like it was really sad.
I'm just imagining you being like, imagine the cells on that one. And they're like, oh my God, Jenna, please stop.
No, it was like that.
It was basically that.
By your last full year, you're in clinicals.
Yeah.
The first term of that's very minimal. I think you're only doing 3 or 6 hours a week. And then the last bit is all 40 hours a week. So you're basically full-time for free.
Yeah.
You're actually paying money to be a full-time employee.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to think about it.
No, it's really fun.
And you're working through it, but you're not getting paid.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, cool. But you're paying them.
Correct.
Yeah, really cool.
It's a great business model.
Yeah, it's a great business model. And speaking of, did they teach you about business of like being a chiropractor, or was it all just like you're going to take insurance, here's like what you're going to do? Did they talk about it?
I think the important thing to remember in that scenario is the people that are teaching you typically didn't do well in private practice.
Oh, so that's a good point.
They're going to have a particular bias against it. In clinical rotation, so for the chiropractic students, we were 1 day a week on campus at a student clinic, and then the rest of the days of the week, we were actually in a private practice. So there were state-approved practices. You could go and do your hours there. So it's like a weird juxtaposition. Like 1 day of the week, you're with someone who like kind of despises the fact that they're a chiropractor. And then the other days you're seeing like the positive side of it.
Yeah. Hopefully you saw more of the positive, it sounds like.
I mean, I looked at most of my professors.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I could see that you ended up here.
Yeah.
I mean.
That's the expression from School of Rock. It's like those who cannot teach gym.
No, those who can't teach. Those who can't teach gym.
Yeah. So in this case, they become professors of chiropractic. Okay.
Yeah. And it's also the route of like, well, if I do this for 10 years, my loans will get forgiven. It's kind of like, sorry if you're listening, but it's like the easy way out.
Yeah.
Or like the boring way out.
And I think you're neither looking for the easy way or the boring way when it comes to like anything I can deduct about you. Yeah. So I think that it sounds like it wouldn't have been that attractive. Mm-hmm. Did you find yourself like when you were doing the clinical rotations, were you able to like see yourself kind of doing that more so? Like, you know, I could see myself with patients. I could see it's happening for me.
Yeah.
Or did it take a while for that to crystallize?
So I was very, very lucky in that I opted for the sports medicine. So the clinicians I was with for the very first part of clinic, I mean, it's a big jump going from foundational classes to essentially role playing where you're now working on, I mean, for the most part, I had a cohort of 110 people.
Right.
I would say 100 of the people were younger athletic people.
Yeah.
No one's really having real pain. And so we're
Right.
learning how to do things and like practice things on someone with no pain.
Mm-hmm.
Also, similar mindset to you, like it's hard to pretend to be serious the whole time.
Yeah.
So that jump from classroom to clinic is massive. And I was so fortunate to have the best mentors on campus.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So shout out to Dr. Michael Fanning.
Yes, Dr. Michael Fanning. And I hope you're listening.
I really attribute all of my clinical success to him. He took the time. He taught us how to do really proper exams. He's a huge emphasis on diagnostics. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the proper diagnosis, how the heck are you going to get this person better?
Yeah.
So
I think it's also interesting because like there has been like a level of like, I mean, we've heard about the horror stories of like team doctors and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, things not being considered or injuries not being addressed properly. And then athletes are losing years of their career. I mean, for you as someone who experienced some burnout from sport, things
Mm-hmm.
like that, did you see the kind of the mental side as well as the physical side? You're not going to sit there and diagnose them like you're not a therapist, but
right.
I'm guessing there's probably some venting that happens for people who are coming in with injuries about they feel like they're, you know, they say every athlete dies twice, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's very true. And not only athletes, but normal people who are having problems doing normal things.
Yeah.
So I think using my history of athletics and understanding mindset
Mm-hmm.
is a big part. And I don't, of course, try to practice like a therapist in any way, but to meet a patient where they're at and to give them proper support and motivation is absolutely essential to a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing a lot of the time is we can get really clinical and we can really be like, well, here's the name of the thing that's wrong with you. And this is the timeline and it's going to suck, but you know, you'll get through it or you won't. Instead, it's like, hey, this is the chance to learn more about your body.
Yeah.
This is a chance to prevent this from happening again. And it's time, you know, offload, decompress, and you're going to come back stronger. So.
Yeah. I think easier said than done, though.
Of course.
I mean, because you've had things where, like, you know, you haven't been able to, like, work out for a couple weeks, and how does it make you feel?
I'm currently, oh, God, this is literally the longest I've gone in my entire life without working out.
How long has it been?
I think we're at 5 weeks.
Okay. How much longer?
So... America healthcare. So I got my repeat blood. Okay, for everyone listening, I induced rhabdomyolysis on myself, which means I'm not allowed to work out for a period of time until certain blood levels drop. I went on Tuesday to retest, so that was like 5 days ago.
Okay.
They forgot to run the one essential part of the test that would say like, okay, I can start my return to play protocol. And now I get to go back. And
so they like took blood for other things that they didn't remember.
I'm still
to take
bruised.
Out. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's pretty big.
So we were running like CMP, so we could see my liver enzymes because those were really elevated from the rhabdo, and then they were supposed to run CK, and they just forgot to run the CK, which has to be stored in a particular way. So they were like, "Oh, we didn't store the blood like that. Like we see it was on the order, but we just didn't do it."
That's like my nightmare. I really, as many tattoos as I have, I can't deal with needles. It's like my biggest fear, and they have to lay me down to draw blood. And meanwhile, like, you know, Dan can just be like, wow, they're taking a lot of your blood. Right. Like, can you not tell me about this?
I passed out. Not last time, but the time before.
It's hard.
No,
it's a lot.
Yeah, I'm like slowly dying inside.
Yeah.
I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But it is a form of release for me to be able to like sleep amazing because I've exerted myself in the day, but be also like work off any stressors or things that would normally make me quite irritable.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to do that in different ways.
Yeah. Which I'm sure is also building empathy. I mean, fast forwarding now to like your current patients and sort of putting yourself back in that mindset of not being able to do the thing that is that ultimate release for you. Mm-hmm. And having that experience, you know, personally will always probably cross over to sharing with your patients and being like, I really feel what you're going through, like literally today.
Yeah, no, I get it. We can cry together and then we'll get to it.
And then we'll work out together when you're better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the thing too. The first couple, I guess like the first week primarily, I couldn't even show the rehab I was trying to do with my patients. I couldn't hold myself in a plank. My arms were so like puffy and swollen.
Yeah.
I didn't have any strength to it. It was horrifying.
That's really scary.
And I was like, also, this is slightly embarrassing because I don't want to share this with every single patient. Like,
right, it's personal.
I did this to myself. Yeah.
And then I just had to talk about it on a podcast. So.
And now everyone,
now everyone knows
guys,
secret.
I can do a plank. I just couldn't do it that week.
All is forgiven. It's still better than my plank, I'm sure. Let's talk advice for like the type of school. If somebody wants to be a chiropractor, where you go to school. I love asking this question. Does it matter where you go to school? It sounds like it matters who is teaching you.
Right. I think undergrad level, I would say no.
Okay.
But doctorate level, absolutely. Doctorate specifically for chiropractic.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple schools of thought within the field. So we have philosophy-driven schools, and then we have evidence-based schools. Basically, when there's an older generation of chiropractors who really, truly believe that we can have malalignments in the spine or something called subluxations, and the adjustments can cure cancer, cure asthma, certain things. That's just evidence speaking is not true. So I don't know how schools like this can still teach particular thoughts like that.
So they're teaching vibes.
They're teaching, they're barefoot in the classroom.
Yeah,
and they're teaching vibes.
Okay, yeah.
So if someone's looking to go sports medicine route to really understand diagnostics, to really be, I think the highest level provider, you have to go evidence-based.
Yeah.
I think no matter what school you go to at certain points, you're like, wow, this is very expensive. I don't know if I'm getting what I need to, but no matter where you are, you also have to create opportunities for yourself, and you have to seek out what you think you're missing.
Yeah.
It's not all going to get handed on a silver platter.
Yeah, I'd say, right?
Yeah. That's true for undergrad too.
Yeah.
You can choose to, really, I think anyone can pass undergrad. You just have to show up and meet the attendance law, basically. Yeah. But you have to think, for me, when I was in school, I was constantly thinking like, okay, yeah, I know this is going to come up on a test, but more so when I see this in real life, how is this going to affect my patient?
Yeah.
And always coming back to, is this going to be important for my patient? Is this going to be important for an outcome?
And then thinking about also like the dynamic of school. Sports in general tends to be very male dominated. That field, you hear a lot about men. Like, did you feel that there was maybe advantages and disadvantages to being a woman pursuing this field? And, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think I went into school thinking I had the advantage for being a younger female, especially, and an ex-athlete. When I went into school, I thought my perfect patient would be this kind of how I was when I started seeing a chiro. Yeah. It was like a youth athlete playing a high-level sport with dreams of, continuing to play through most of their young life. And what I had seen from friends, there was also a lot of money in that. There was a lot of investment from our parents in playing club. I think club soccer at this point is one of the most expensive sports, team sports. So I kind of saw that as a little area I could really squeeze in. And I thought, hey, if I had a 8, 9, 10-year-old daughter who needed treatment, am I going to pick the older guy, or am I going to pick the cute, young, cool one that my daughter would relate to? Yeah, exactly. And she'd feel comfortable with. Yeah. So I always saw it as an advantage, and I knew it would attract the people that I wanted to see.
I think we look to see ourselves represented, no matter where we are. And when I can imagine thinking about starting a patient practice, wanting them to also look to you and be like, oh, I'm so inspired by this. This is the person I see myself with. This is the kind of doctor I want to see.
Right.
Was that the case?
Yeah. And I think adherence wise too, if you don't like your provider, you could have 2 people doing the same exact treatment on somebody, and naturally you're going to gravitate more towards one, and your outcome will be better.
I know you jumped right into seeing patients, but what was that like for you coming out of school? Did you have that mentality right out of the gate, or is this a learned behavior?
I just knew what I had seen in clinic.
Right.
There were aspects I liked and aspects I didn't like about certain practices. So it was kind of taking my experiences and then starting to shape them into what I think would give me the best outcome and the patient the best outcome. In clinic rotations, I quickly understood I was not going to be a good employee. I always had something to say. I had problems, but I would also present solutions.
Yeah.
But I think as, unfortunately, a younger female in what actually were male-dominated spaces where the private practices I were at, it was always met with, you're being really aggressive.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh.
You're aggressive. Yeah.
Just got a little triggered.
Correct. But I would start meetings off and say, hey, I'm not mad. I just want to be really objective. But you can hear my tone. You can see I'm smiling, but my tone is pretty flat for the most part.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It was enough frustration. I was also kind of pushed out of particular offices because they
fired.
Yeah, I got.
Did you get fired?
Wrongfully terminated.
Yeah, I mean, been there.
Yeah, so
definitely
terminated, and then my next, which I didn't do anything wrong, I would like to point out. But...
No, I was told that my ideas and my aspirations extended beyond the core of my role when I was fired. I thought I was getting promoted, and they were like, "So today's your last day," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, mine was a phone call. So yeah, I was like, "Hey, do you have a minute to chat?" I said,
"Oh no,
sure."
Just say no.
Yeah. He was like, "Yeah, we don't have space for you to come in anymore."
Oh no.
Okay, we're in the middle of the term.
But that didn't deter you. That motivated you.
Initially, I'd never failed at anything, and I looked at that as kind of my first failure.
Do you look at it now as a failure?
No.
Would you look at it as a catalyst?
A gift.
Yeah, it's a gift, right?
The gift was I then had to find somewhere else to do my rotation, which actually I went back to school because it was middle of the term. So there's a approval process you have to go to before you start at another clinic.
Wow.
But you can always go back to school. So I actually got terminated while I was at school in clinic. I left on my lunch to take the call. So I went in and I was like, I sat down with Fanny.
Yeah, what now?
Yeah, I was like, so this just happened.
Okay.
And he was like, well, the same thing happened to me. So, and I was like, okay, well, great. That's the guy that terminated me, was not someone I strived to be. He looked at him and never saw him as a mentor role, never saw him as really a respectable boss.
Yeah. But
Fanning, I looked at him and I was like, that's the type of clinician I want to be. So I just said, okay.
He was like, now you're in the fired club. Terminated club.
Yeah, the terminated club.
Yeah.
I feel like that word's just a little
terminated just seems like you got blown up. I don't know. I'd rather just say fired and it was, debatable whether or not it was worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
But then my last term actually of school, I just didn't want to commute anymore. So I was like, I'm going to the closest chiropractor. I don't even care. I know how to practice. At that point, my clinical skills were really sharp and I just didn't need a clinical mentor. I had one.
Yeah.
I just needed a space to practice and do my thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up at a spot in Beverly Hills who actual opposite of how I would practice, just old school. We had 5 rooms between the two of us, and it was just adjustment. We'd see 70 people a day. It was outrageous.
Oh my God.
Amazing businessman.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, if I can do one thing, it's turn off my brain when I get here and just turn on business and start learning how this guy has done this for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And I was really trying to make myself fit into the office upon graduating. So I was like, okay, I could see myself building something within this practice.
Yeah.
But I just need 1 room. I don't need the 5.
Yeah, I don't need 5 rooms. Right. Yeah.
And he sat me down and he was like, Jenna, there are some people that are meant to be employees and there are some people that are meant to run businesses. He's like, you are not an employee. And I was like, okay. So I basically was told no, you can't do your own thing here. And looking back, it's I was trying to make a circle fit in a square. It just wasn't happening.
That was the gift. Yeah.
It was, another gift. Yeah. So I stuck with him until I got licensed. And the week I was licensed, I said, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
now's the time.
Yeah. And something else that you shared that happened within a month of you getting licensed is that you were offered to work with Team USA fencing.
Yeah, it was very, very shortly after. I actually, as a student, had written a patient abstract, which Fanning helped me write as well. But
shout out to Fanning.
He really just carried me into my career. And I won an award, so I got to present it at this. Thank you. Best Student Abstract Award.
That's amazing.
Technically a student at the time. So I got to present it.
Okay.
I pretty much blacked out on stage. I have no idea what I said, but I think I got a moderately good standing ovation.
Okay.
People were telling me oh, that was really
well
great.
received. Yeah,
well received. And the director of sports medicine for fencing, she's alumni from our school. And so we just were chatting and she's like, what's your interest in sports? And I was like, I love sports. Like, I was down and want to do it. So a few months later, she reached out and invited me to a trial run in Minnesota.
Okay.
To work at a North American Cup for fencing and just...
And you never did fencing?
No.
But yeah.
None of the medical providers have done fencing.
Maybe that's better. They're not trying to be out there, but they're looking a little bit more objectively.
Right. And it was really fun to kind of be thrown into a whole new world. Again, I think the common theme also between you and I is there's a lot of boredom and like complacency or just doing, I couldn't come in and do the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
And to have that and be there and like, oh my God, I'm taking my skills and I'm seeing something completely new.
Yeah. And then you're seeing it perform. You're actually seeing the athlete go out and hopefully win the competition.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. And I, after that point, was just invited back for a few more international with the actual Olympic athletes, because this other one was, I think over 1,000 athletes, something crazy. And that made my private practice perfect because I had my office, I had this escape, and it was something new all the time.
And you're still working with Team USA?
Yeah.
And you travel, I mean, I think you went to like Romania or something last year. I remember that.
To Algeria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were all over the world.
Algeria, Serbia.
Okay, so wherever the competitions are, there goes Jenna.
Yeah, there's a lot of us as providers. There's many fencing teams.
Yeah.
Not many people are aware of that. But, it was my first international flight.
Yeah.
Was to Algeria. And it was arguably the scariest week of my life.
Yeah. And so that was you overcoming a fear and then also having to show up as like a full professional, probably super fucking jet lagged.
I cried every night to tell us.
So a little moral support needed.
I had heard the word jet lag and I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
Until I was like laying in bed and I felt like I was on a ship. I was like, what is happening to me?
And your body's like, I need food. Just kidding. I don't. Yeah. Please don't feed me.
And it was like a lot of strange, strong coffee. I was like, I don't think I'm feeling good.
Yeah, you just kind of feel like an empty balloon. Yeah, wow. And then you're still expected to do all of the work that you do on competitors.
Yeah,
so no fuck ups.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing too that I've learned is just like how intense your schedule is. Like it's a grind. I mean, like even now having your own practice, which I'd love to talk about, outside of like, and now you're not doing house calls, so you're able to contain it. You're still working like 8 to 10 hour days. Is that right?
I'm still doing a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's shifted a little bit in the last few months, but I'm primarily 6 a.m. start time with patients.
Okay.
To about 2 or 3 p.m.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and so talk a little bit about like now you're contained into one place and that's even evolved.
Yeah.
was it just like you got burnt out from doing house calls or you were just like, this is not sustainable? I mean, what was kind of the impetus there?
I think everyone who starts with house calls knows that that's just like the cheapest way to get your own thing going. Yeah.
It feels luxurious for the patient.
You make it feel luxurious.
Yeah.
You're like dying.
Yeah. You're like, I really, really need to use your restroom and I haven't had a sip of water for 3 hours.
I had like my 40-ounce Yeti.
Yeah.
Refilling. But I reached a point, I mean, I did house calls for about 6 months.
Okay.
At that time, as I was building my book, so to speak, referrals for house calls, it's definitely more difficult than referrals when you're in an office. Yeah. Because it's also like a character match in a way to invite someone into your house. Do you have any good
stories of first and last visits?
No, all of mine were great.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
But for the most part, I never had like a cold call. It was all warmer leads. So, hey, I'm really good friends with so-and-so. They said you were great. Yeah. So it was comfortable.
Okay, that's good. again, like I have to go back to like being a woman
100%.
in a self practice. Like it's just you. Like it feels kind of scary sometimes, like going to a new spot and you're like, I hope this is what they said it is. And I'm a little nervous. So
And that reminds me, my last term of school, I had a rotation at Cal State Northridge at their student clinic, which is actually really cool. But the doctor there, actually he retired last year. So he was very, very, very old.
Okay.
Very old school as well.
Okay.
And we were talking business plans, like coming out of school, because he also ran a private practice and then did Northridge as like a part-time thing.
Yeah.
And he like flat out was like, that's not safe. You shouldn't do that. Like you need to be an associate under somebody else. Again, just like very old school compared to the other doctors I was working with. I was like, okay, like I get the safety thing, like sure.
Yeah.
But
you're like, I did jujitsu.
Sir, when I was 12 and a half, I don't think you realize.
I was a black belt. Yeah.
Sure, I got my yellow belt with a white stripe in the middle.
I could drop you right now.
Exactly. But seeing that thought process as well, the associate side of chiropractic is, I mean, the phrase is literally that they eat their young.
Ugh.
It's like cheap labor.
Yeah.
So I have friends right now making $20 an hour with the doctor.
And that's not sustainable.
In Los Angeles.
Yeah, where again, that's not sustainable.
In and out pays $19.77.
So and then you also have, school loans and, for several years of school that you're going through and then you're trying to kind of manage that. I mean, that's not sustainable.
And we're paying malpractice, we're paying for an EHR, we're paying for additional things. So at the end of a month, what does 30, 40 hours at $20 an hour and California taxes look like?
Yeah.
Not very much.
Not very much at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from like a, starting out standpoint, there is this mentality that you have to like start out and really like pay your dues and, like you have to grind it out. Fuck that. Like, I think that's very true. Mm-hmm. And I think there's like the other side of it where it's like, start off being like, I'm going to be a multimillionaire in my second year of business is also like not.
That's a goal.
Yeah, it's a good goal. It's a great goal. But like, what's kind of like the trajectory of that is like probably somewhere in between, right? Of like, I don't have to eat dirt, but I also need to like scale my business in a way that's, practical. So moving out of house calls and into your own space, were you aware of all of like the business admin that would come with that? Of just kind of like, now you're paying rent somewhere. Now you're setting up systems and operations. Like what was that part like?
Yeah. So I waited the 6 months to really even entertain the thought. Well, actually, I was kind of forced into it. So by the end of the 6 months of my house calls, I was at a point where I couldn't really accept new patients because of the driving schedule.
Yeah.
At this point too, I was doing 1 day a week in Corona just because I had people on plans of care.
History. Yeah.
Yeah. Stomping grounds. But then I was full up in LA the other days of the week. And I was doing 6 days a week. I was really only taking off like part of Sunday. But at that point, I'm doing all the admin stuff as well.
Yeah.
So no real strategic marketing because, again, the house call thing is only really a referral type of business. But I was doing all the scheduling. I was doing all the payments. I was doing all the follow-up. And, I mean, basically running the business without, like, a business address.
Yeah.
And after that 6 months, I was really getting to the burnout point again of just, like, dude, it's hot here. I'm tired. I don't want to break down my table so many times in a day.
Yeah, you probably need a chiropractor for all the carrying and breaking down.
I got a lot of acupuncture.
Yeah, a lot of acupuncture. Yeah, definitely.
But once I started, I actually wasn't specifically, I was looking to rent space, but the options are horrifying. Also, it's like creepy, tiny treatment room with like purple curtains and a green wall. And it's like, okay, it's going to be $2,000 a month and you get it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
And you're like a chiropractic wizard.
Yeah. I was like,
you're going to share the space with a magician.
Yeah. So that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
And $2,000 for 3 days a week. I was like, that just doesn't make sense for someone. And I knew going into an office space, a lot of my patients were not going to transfer from house calls to an office. Like that's a particular person that's doing it. So I just around the same time was driving around looking at personal training gyms because I know sometimes those gyms have rooms to rent. I landed on one mainly because I knew that other locations of this franchise typically have a sports medicine, like either PT, chiro, masseuse, like they always have a complimentary service.
Okay.
That is an independent contractor and not an employee of the space.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I went to this place, like basically like, hey, do you guys have anybody? Like, do you have a referral system or do you have someone you work with already? It was a newer gym. I think they were open maybe 6-8 months at the time. And he was like, no, like come in, let's talk. And by the end of it, he's like, do you want to rent space? At the time, there was no private room. It was just, we had a big gym and a small gym. And he's like, you can just set up your table and like treat patients like that.
Out in the open?
Out in the open,
Okay.
which I had seen before. It's very common at CrossFit gyms to have a setup like that. This wasn't a CrossFit gym, but I'd seen the model before.
Okay.
And I was like, no, thank you. And I left.
Yeah.
But thought, like, I really sat over the weekend and I was like, okay, it's a 2-month commitment. And then it went month to month. And so financial reasoning, even if I saw 0 new patients, I would be fine with what the cost was.
Yeah.
Which felt very steep at the time. I mean, it was $1,750 to not even have a private room.
Yeah. And you're like on display. So
On
there's
display.
also like certain things like, you know, someone's not going to want to like take off their shirt maybe or like in that space.
Right.
You can't control the temperature.
No.
You can't control what other people are doing in that space.
Correct.
So if they're like having a, you know, pro wrestler match kind of thing happen in the corner,
to sit there in class.
yeah, you just got to go with it and hope
Yeah.
your patient is totally into it.
Right. And that's the thing too, is in a space like that, I quickly understood you could point out the flaws in it or you could point out the positives. And so,
let's talk about the positives.
Exactly. Yeah. You're, no matter where you are creating an experience for your patient. Even if you have the most amazing setup, if you are negative, you know, talking shit about particular things or complaining about something, your patient may not have noticed any of those things. And now they're like, oh,
yeah,
you're right.
My God, I've totally had that before.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus like, as you said, I can't control what was happening in the open gym, but I had someone come in and they were like, wow, the energy here is amazing. I was like, you're absolutely right. Like, isn't it so inspiring and motivating to get back to working out?
Yeah, because you're seeing it happen all around you.
Right.
And there's people who are like probably pretty shredded. And if you're a competitor, you're like, I miss that about my body. I want to get back to like when I can work out again.
And even people who weren't athletic anymore as an adult, seeing someone maybe on a weight loss journey or someone that is more relatable to them and saying, I could do that. Yeah. So we, you know, although in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this.
Yeah. No one knew.
Correct. Yeah. So you're shaping the experience and
never let them see you sweat. You know, I always think of it like putting on like a, you know, like I was a theater kid for a bit, but like putting on like a play, it's like behind the black curtain, everyone's running around frantically. But when you're on stage, your shit's buttoned up and it looks good, you know? And like, so just not letting them see what's happening behind the curtain, even if it's the curtain of your brain, that's really important.
Yeah. And so when I started at the gym, we only had about 15 personal trainers. So it's all personal trainers renting space. So also no one's really, we're held to a team standard, but there's no one like, hey, I could fire you. Okay. Like the thing is, if I pay my rent, I get to be here whenever I want.
That's perfect for you.
Right. For me.
Yeah.
But for the trainers, there's not a lot of, I don't want to say accountability, but they could do things that maybe if we were all employees, they couldn't do.
Got it.
So I also understood, like, I'm trying to create a very different experience than they're trying to create for their clients.
Yeah. So there was a time limit on that.
There was a time limit. And just like the house calls, there may have been people who they thought like, oh, my friend really needs this type of care, but they're not going to like this.
They're not going to like it.
No.
Or I can imagine me as like a pregnant person now, not wanting to like go into a gym of people and like just feeling less comfortable in my body.
Listen,
currently.
I wouldn't want to do
it. just not the vibe. Yeah.
So then, I mean, the crazy thing is I did extremely well in that setup.
I mean, just shock me. You're a hustler.
But on paper, someone else could sit there and be like, you know, I can't do this. This is not going to work. Like, people aren't going to like it. It's not going to be quiet. I can't control every aspect of it. But I feel like early on in business, it's important to remember, like, you can be given an inch and you can still take a mile with it. Like, there
it's
are
what you make of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like there is structure to business, but there's not a lot of rules to it.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do with it, just do it.
Yeah.
The first thing is just do it and try.
Yeah.
And if anything, like, okay, yeah, have your financial risk and be like, okay, if everything goes completely wrong, can I pay my rent? Can I eat? And can I pay for all the necessary things?
Yeah.
But what if it goes halfway right? Or
Yeah.
what if it goes fully how you explain?
And what are the learnings you can take into whatever comes next, right? Like you can pull the stuff you liked forward. You can try to trim some of the fat of the things that you were like not obsessed with.
Yeah.
And you can continue to curate that experience.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So how long were you in that open format before you were like, no more?
September to December.
Okay, so you were like 2-month commitment? Say less, fam. Yeah.
Yeah, so I made it to about the new year, but November, December, I had a week trip each month with Team USA.
Okay.
So I was out of the office for a week, and then there was Thanksgiving, and then there were all the end of the year holidays.
Yeah.
So those were also days that, you know, or like breaks. So people were going on holiday.
You're not doing Christmas Day adjustments?
I mean, I was down.
Yeah.
Not on the schedule.
Yeah.
But, you know, the hustler.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, we're not opening gifts till 10 a.m.
Yeah,
Sure.
I could see you at 8. Yeah, no problem.
I actually think I saw someone on the 26th, which I think was a Saturday.
I mean, yeah.
I was down.
Yeah,
by my house.
whatever you need.
But so that made it easier. I think if I had to be there all 4 weeks of those 2 months, I was like kind of reeling inside.
Yeah.
But sat down with the owner and I was like, dude, the demand is too high. There's too many trainers now. I can't hear my patient when they're face down. Like there was a lot of communication problems now between my patients and I.
Yeah.
And no one wants to yell like about like during their treatment. Like that's like someone has a migraine.
My ass. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone has a migraine. Like this is not like they would probably heal faster if they just went home.
Yeah. You're like, I could adjust you, but it's really going to be loud in here and bright and everything else. Yeah.
So I was like, either I need a private room or I have to go.
Okay.
And he was like, okay, I'll like, they built themselves a private room, a smaller private room in the front of the gym to watch who was coming in and coming out.
Yeah.
And then I took their private office in the back. So
that's great.
That ended up being February.
So so you've since like been able to morph it into your own space and make it much more about what you imagined.
Right.
Yeah.
Privacy. It's definitely quiet.
Yeah.
I can
hear the chaos of the gym.
I can have a stationary table because also during this whole time, I wasn't leaving a table set up in the gym. So I was still doing a house call setup, but I was just setting up, you know, in the morning, treating people.
That's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do with all that extra time you have now? Just kidding.
Well, now.
Yeah. I don't have that extra time.
I wish I had that time now. No, so now the fun part is learning marketing, implementing marketing, and building a business model that's sustainable.
Yeah. How does that work? Like when you're a medical professional, you know, and you are also marketing a service, you know, we've all seen the like corny ad on the side of a bus that's like, see Dr. Klotch. You're like, no, I will not see Dr. Klotch. Yeah. It's terrifying.
Well, now that's last on
Yeah, you will not be.
I know,
you don't want to be like, you don't want to be the accident lawyer of LA doctor. How do you promote in a time where people have no attention span? You know, they're really not looking to be like, you know, sold something. What do you do in that instance?
Yeah. So I think the important thing is, as a business owner, figuring out your core values, even if you don't have a team, like you should still be held accountable to core values. You should understand who your perfect patient is, and you have to create a message that speaks to that person. So for my main like digital marketing is going to be Instagram. Yeah. So there are, as everyone knows, the 10-second videos of the full spine adjustment, and the patients or the people that see that who are drawn to that are looking for that type of care, versus my marketing and my business strategy is long-term relief. So it's, you know, hour appointment versus a 10-minute appointment. It's 100% one-on-one with me versus in some PT settings, you meet the doctor of physical therapy one time and then you're with an aide the rest of the time doing exercises from a sheet. So I'm basically taking all of those things and those experiences and pointing out, you know, if that went wrong, you're not out of options. So I'm basically like my perfect patient is speaking to somebody who has tried a course of care or has tried chiropractic, tried PT, feel like they have no options, feel like there's nothing left for them but a pain medication. And basically I'm in the business of like giving someone hope and speaking to that, like, hey, I know you've tried. I know this is what it looked like. I know how shitty it is, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so I don't want someone with a short attention span. I want someone that's like, oh shit, this looks like me. This sounds like me. These are the complaints I've had. You probably can't help me.
Yeah.
So I'm already weeding people like that out because my treatment structure is, on average 2 or 3 months of care.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it's aggressive in the beginning, but we taper it. So I tell people flat out too, I don't want you dependent on my care. I want us to have a start date. We're going to have a projected end date. We are touching base constantly in the middle and saying like, hey, you're right on track, or hey, we're going to have to take a step back and then kind of shift gears.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the attention span's fine because it's not really my perfect patient.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're really into like setting a program of like initially relieving the pain and then transitioning to something that's going to help them not get re-injured perhaps, and things like that.
Yeah.
What's the demographic of your patients in terms of like, we talked a lot about athletes and like you're kind of, when you were in school, you're like desired patient of like, do you have just like some cool tween like Swifties that are all playing club soccer? Like what's the breakdown?
Right.
No,
it's a lot of being in LA, a lot of industry workers.
Okay.
So I've actually had a big influx of hair and makeup.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah. Using your shoulders, your neck is probably all messed up.
They're crazy. They have 80-pound suitcases that they lift in and out of their car.
Yeah.
And when, we're not on strike, they're working 14-hour days on set.
Yeah.
They may not get a lunch break, or they're eating catered food and it's something maybe they don't like. They're sitting for long periods, they're standing for long periods, and then they're carrying a go bag on one shoulder. So now they have just a crossbody almost all day on them, just in case they have to run out in between takes to fix something.
And so with the writer strikes that are currently happening and the actor strikes that are currently happening, what has that done to your business model? Has that affected your patients again?
Yeah. I mean, that's the name of the game in business, it's just problem solving. So
diversifying who your patients are, what your revenue streams are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so initially it was actually better for my business because these individuals finally had the time to dedicate to their health because they normally couldn't commit to the type of care plan I do because of their work schedules.
Yeah.
And so now it was like, hey, again, let's create the experience. So I'm going to tell you, if we're having our consult, when else are you going to have time like this? When else are you going to be able to commit to this type of care?
Yeah.
Because when the strike ends, which it inevitably will, and you end up on set again, are you just going to go back in pain?
Yeah.
Or are we going to figure out strategies for you to do while you're working to keep your pain from coming back?
So it's like seeing you as part of it, but not all of it. Like there has to be like the home exercises or interim care. And then once you release someone and say, okay, you've graduated from your treatment program, do they come back to you? Do you have them check in with you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So the whole process of the treatment plan is we start primarily with passive care. So that's me doing stuff to you. The idea is we're helping manage pain and symptoms first.
And then they do things to you. That's the next step. Yeah. Yeah.
Is my malpractice listening? No.
Okay, good.
No. So the passive care is like a massage.
Okay.
It's going to be like you're just chilling and someone is providing
I want that
care.
care. That sounds nice.
So that's the pain management and the symptom management.
Yeah.
The first part, because you need someone to feel good before they're actually going to do things for you.
That's true. Yeah.
Basically, pain management. Usually right off the bat, there will be some sort of like stabilizing exercises. So if you come to me with lower back pain, I'm not going to make your lower back pain go away in our 1 hour appointment, but we can start learning like, oh, it really bothers me when I have to get in and out of my car or I'm getting up from bed. Okay, well, we can work on bracing techniques. So for right now, at least if you're a 6 out of 10, but then when you're getting out of your car, you're a 10 out of 10 and you think you could pass out, well, we can help manage that symptom right away.
Yeah.
So that starts, like the scale starts shifting. So later on in treatment, it's more so the active care part. So the exercises, really implementing certain things that you're going to do in a normal day. So for my hair and makeup people, within the first couple 2 or 3 weeks, we're actually outside at their car with their kit. Granted, we take stuff out of it, so it's not the 80 pounds, but we're working on lifting and setting techniques because that's what they're going to need to be doing.
And then they do your glam.
And then as a thank you, which one of them has.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, my first, roles that I worked in were in the beauty industry, like an editorial space. And I always love that space, but you're right. It is a lot of schlepping and a lot of hard work and a lot of very unforgiving things on the body.
Totally.
So, making space. I mean, what advice would you give to somebody who maybe isn't good about taking the time to invest in their own, care? And I think so much with like service providers, industry people, you put energy and care outward, and how to pull it back for yourself is very complicated. What advice would you give to somebody who feels like they don't have the time?
Right. I mean, I think if you don't have the time now and you're able to operate day to day, what's that going to look like in 5 years? What's that going to look like in 10 years? You could say, okay, if I just can shape out 2 hours a week right now for a month, and then, decreasing, because that's kind of the treatment plan I follow. Could I do that now, or would I rather be out of work for a month because I have like full spasm pain, debating surgery,
Yeah.
So it's kind of, well, it's not bad enough yet. Okay. Well, if it's not too bad, that means we could probably make a lot of progress really quickly.
You're like, okay, sadist. Yeah, why are you wanting to...
Why are you doing this?
Yeah, why do you like this? Yeah.
There's a little more to explore there.
Yeah.
But
not a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a good referral for you.
Yeah.
But no, I think part of it is finding the internal of somebody's problem. Yeah. So yes, outwardly you have back pain, but internally, what is that? What part of your back pain is really concerning you? And, oftentimes it's like, I'm planning on having a kid soon, and I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to play with them. I'm afraid of having to bend over, pick them up. Like, I want to be able to be on the field with them playing games, but like, I don't know that my back will let me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you're 32. What do you think that's going to be when you're 42?
Right. Yeah.
What about when you're 60 and you have grandkids? Like,
yeah,
these are all, like, it's kind of harsh, but these are things to think about, because if you don't take control of it now, inevitably it's going to get worse.
Yeah. Do you see people who are more like in the grandparent stage of life that are looking to, is there hope to rehabilitate at that point, or is it so far gone that they're kind of...
No one is too far gone.
Oh, so it's never too late.
It's never too late.
Okay.
Listen, my dog is like 8 years old and she learned some new tricks.
Yeah.
I promise you, if you are able to move, we can make progress.
That's amazing. I mean, I can't believe we're actually coming up on time, but I mean, if somebody is interested in, kind of hearing what's next for you, like what is next for Lagana Wellness, and what's going to come up for you? What can you share with us?
Well, did Natasha share anything?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. Just let us know, Jenna.
Well, I found this really incredible acupuncturist, and I decided to marry her because why not?
Yeah.
So that's coming up.
Yeah.
And not only will we be married in life, but I think in business as well. So
you got to lock it all the way down,
that's
right?
Yeah. No exit strategies. So I think, again, I think I'm outgrowing the space I'm in right now, which is an amazing problem to have.
Yeah.
But we're going to create the best healthcare spot in Los Angeles. And any of our patients will tell you it's going to be fucking incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I can't fucking wait.
Yeah.
Like, how will people learn about updates? Like, where can they find you on the internet? Like, you mentioned that you like to do marketing via Instagram.
World Wide Web.
Yeah. The information superhighway. Where can we find more Jenna?
Instagram is the best.
Okay.
It'll be in the show notes, but
it will be
at Jenna Lagana.
Perfect.
I have a website, but that's more so just information on my business. It's not really updated in a frequent fashion, but Instagram's going to be the best way.
Yeah. And if people are interested, if they're in LA and they're interested in seeking care, can they get on your wait list? Can they submit interest?
Yeah. I have a form on my website that you fill out, and it basically adds you into the queue.
Great.
We would get a phone consult set up pretty much immediate to make sure it's a good fit, and then we move on from there.
mean, that's amazing. And I mean, what's one thing you want to leave our listeners with today? What's one nugget you want to share? Kind of bringing it back.
Yeah. I think going against the grain, not fitting into certain rules or places, and creating the life that you want is 100% possible. There are times where it will be tough, and there are times where you'll question what you're doing. But if you stay true to your core values and your goals, there's no way you can be unhappy with the decision.
I'm speechless, which is hard to do. Yeah. That's perfect. I mean, honestly, that's like...
Do you feel inspired?
I do. I'm going to have to go open a business. Yeah. I have to go find a personal training gym to give me a spot. I'm in. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been amazing to have you on the show, and we will talk to you next week.
Don't Fuck This Up is a podcast written, produced, and edited by Lauren Alvarez. New episodes dropping every Wednesday. Be sure to follow, rate, and review this and every episode. And until next week, please keep it together and try your best not to fuck this up.